Hello again in this installment of Spiritual Wisdom. If you've been here before, welcome back. And if you're new, welcome. My name is Nicholas and on my channel I talk about witchcraft, Wicca, paganism, self-love, and all matter of philosophical and spiritual topics. And I've got all different types of playlists in the channel you can check out. But if you're new here, please, if you're interested in those types of things, please subscribe, join this amazing community, and click the bell icon to be notified each time I post a new video. And if you like this content, please give me a thumbs up. And right now in the channel, I'm doing zodiac sign love readings. So if you're are based in your sun sign, so if you're like a Gemini, Sagittarius, and the next sign I'm going to be doing is like Capricorn. So if you're Capricorn and you're in a romantic relationship, that reading sort of reflects what's going on in your relationship. And some of it may resonate with you, none of it may resonate, but as always, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, as well. But today I just thought I would talk about something more relatable on the channel, which will be, this video will be on my philosophy playlist, and this subject will be more relatable. And today I'm going to be talking about living your life in chains. So when we're born in this world, we're born free. The only sort of cord or a chain we've got, if you like, is the umbilical cord. But that's not a bad connection, because most of us have got a good and loving relationship with our mother. Some of us, that is not the case, and we need to break that cord, that cycle. Even though the cord is cut at birth, sometimes we have to psychically and spiritually break that cord. But living your life in chains are, bad habits or things that weigh heavy in your soul, things that are not good for your overall well-being. So when you're born, your mind is not fully developed, so you've not got your consciousness, you don't have any knowledge of good, evil, nothing. So your brain's still developing. But when we get older in life, we do experience trauma, we go through difficult things, and all of us in life, we've all got battle scars, we've all got healing to do, and we sort of become, because we feel empty inside, a lot of us, we feel empty inside, and we look for the answers outside of us, and we're trying to fill this emptiness with food, material things, with addictions, and bad habits. But the answers don't lie outside of us, they lie deep inside of us. And the answer to a lot of the world's problems is the journey of self-love, learning to love and respect yourself. And there's a lot of things that can help us break free from these chains. Now, the first chain, so I've wrote a list of the chains. I've wrote a list of what the chains are. So, in life we can pick up chains, and these things weigh heavy in our soul. They're not good for us, and we become like a hamster in a Ferris wheel. But the hamster eventually gets off the Ferris wheel. But when you've got a bad habit, you just keep going round and round, and it's hard to get off the Ferris wheel or the hamster wheel. It's hard to break, but it can be done. And you're living your life as a prisoner because you've got things that are weighing heavy in your mind. So you're a prisoner of your mind, you're a prisoner of your emotions, your impulses. And it's not a good place to have chains in your life, because we were born free and we want to sort of live our life free and sort of die sort of free as well. But having chains can cause a lot of pain and suffering. So the first chain in our life is validation. Now this is something society teaches us. We want to be validated for our behaviour, our actions. We want our parents, we want them to say you've done a good job and well done. We expect it, or we want it for people to say you're on the right path, you're doing the right things. Though it's nice to have a family member behind you patting your back and saying you're doing a good job and giving you a validation and approval are very similar, but if someone's validating you, they're approving of your actions. That's nice to have that. But as I've always said, don't live for approval. Because before I was on my spiritual path, before I loved myself, and before I really found myself, I was a people pleaser. I tried to please everyone. and I wanted everyone to like me. I wanted to get on with everyone, and I wanted everyone to sort of, approve of what I was doing and understand me. But that caused me a lot of suffering. And a lot of you watching, perhaps you've tried to do that. You wanted everyone to understand you, to validate your actions, your behaviours. Now, we've all been guilty of it, and I've been guilty of it, looking for validation. What breaks us free from it is learning to validate what we're doing. So don't look for other people to validate it. Go, right, I'm validating what I'm doing because it feels right. Also, not everyone works with spirit guides, but we all have them. Some people don't believe in them, some people don't work with them, but we've all spirit guides. And again, I would say your spirit guides getting validation from them is good, because they want to help you, they want you to learn and grow and be the best version of you. But by and large, in a nutshell, what breaks us free from validation is doing what feels right. We've all got intuition, and intuition's like a gut feeling where you feel, I'm going to meet someone today, or I'm not going to meet someone, or something good is going to happen, or something bad, but you get a strong feeling what you should do something, you shouldn't do something, or something's right for you, or something's not. We've all got intuition, and I call it the voice of spirit, the voice of God within, and we want to listen to that, the voice of the gods within our intuition, because that breaks us free from validation. Number 2, the second thing what makes us prisoners in life and becomes a chain is approval. Validation, approval, very similar energy. But it's like, an example of this is, depending on what culture you're in, like for example, in some cultures they've got arranged marriages, or you could be a man and you could get to pick your own wife, but by and large you love this person, you love them, you're in love with them, but by and large you want your family to approve of your partner, you want them to approve of what you're doing. Now, again, a good family would love, like good parents, a good family would love their child for who they are. They would love their child for who they are, not what they could be, and they wouldn't put expectations onto their children, because expectations cause suffering, and they also become a chain. But again, we expect it, or we're taught, psychologically we're taught, but we need approval. And then in some cultures, you've got an arranged marriage, which is never a good thing. So the man has to marry a woman he doesn't love, and she has to marry a man she doesn't love. And then to add more sort of insult to injury, what could also be very difficult is, like, these two individuals, though they're together, she may be a heterosexual woman, she may be straight, but the man she's married with, he may not be attracted to the opposite sex, but he's living a lie to please his family, to get his family's approval. As well, and living for approval is never a good thing. And again, it's the same with religion. Like, if you come from a very strict religious family, and you're like the only witch in your family, or the only pagan in your family, that can be a difficult minefield. Now, a good family would love you regardless of what your beliefs or your faiths are, but a toxic family would love what they think you are, or what you could be, So again, approval is another thing that becomes a chain. But what breaks you free from approval is the same thing, because validation, approval get a very similar energy to it. So what breaks you free from that is doing what feels right. Listen to your intuition, going, right, my family's Catholic, and in my case, like, I was not brought up a strict Catholic, but I just felt there was a time in life where the Catholic faith was for me, but as I got older, it just didn't sit right with me, the Catholic faith, and it wasn't ringing true for me. But the path I'm on now does ring true for me. It feels right, and that's how you know you're on the right path, when it feels right in your heart and soul. And again, it's the same with, don't live for approval, do what feels right. So that breaks you free from validation and approval. The third chain, what we can get in life, is bad habits. So again, bad habits can become addictions, but bad habits and addictions have got a very similar energy to it. Not the same, but similar. But a bad habit, again, is something you're doing over and over again, expecting maybe a different result. But a bad habit is something you're used to. So one bad habit, which I'm guilty of, but I'm trying to break out of it, is turning like daytime into night. And, turning daytime into night and night into day. That is a bad habit what I've got, and I'm trying to break free of that. But also there are other bad habits, we may have as well. And a bad habit is something you're that used to doing, you're like a hamster in a ferris wheel. You're that used to doing it, and you just repeat it over and over again. And again, bad habits are not good because they're not good for your mental health, your physical, emotional health, and for your overall well-being. Bad habits. So, and again, what breaks us free from bad habits is good habits. So if you've got that problem like me, like you turn day into night, you turn day into night and night into day. If you do that, then it's a good idea to set alarms, to set a checklist, so you're planning to get up at a certain time, and you're planning your morning out, your evening, and it takes about 21 days to create good new habits. So it's a good idea to start going, right, I've got this bad habit, how am I going to replace it? And you start replacing bad habits with good habits. That's how you break free of bad habits. Number 4 on the list is addiction. Now, I have no real experience with sort of addiction in the sense, but I've never been addicted to anything, I would say. But I've many of my clients, I've met many clients who they've not told me in a reading, because when I do readings for people, I don't ask questions. I just go into the reading. The client may have a question what they want me to divinate on, or most of the readings I do are blind readings, though the person's not got a question, it's just a blind reading. But that comes up in the reading. I get that energy, but they've got addictions, bad habits, but they've got addiction issues and problems. So again, addiction comes from the root of addiction. The root may be different for everyone, but more often not, the root of addiction is there's an emptiness inside of you. You hate yourself, you don't love yourself, you've got no self-worth, no self-respect, and you've got a lot of trauma. But rather than deal with that pain head on, rather than go, this is my pain, rather than work with it, process it, integrate it, and heal from it, that's how sometimes we have to go back to go forward. We can't change the past, but we can heal from it, learn from it. But with addiction, it's, you're living with addiction. The way it ruins your life, addiction, is autopilot, because nothing matters to you but the addiction. You can't just sit and watch a TV. You cannot just sit and watch the TV. You can't just sit and be with your friends or family, because you need that addiction. The addiction always comes first. It always wins. And it ruins your life. And again, some people can afford to keep their addiction going, but more often not, depending on the addiction, all your money goes on in that addiction. So it's not good for your bank balance. It's not good for your emotional bank balance as well. So addiction is a very hard thing, and people can be addicted to all sorts of things. But one of my good friends, and one person who's a client, one person someone who was in the Alcohol Anonymous group. They were a heavy alcoholic, so they had a really strong alcohol addiction. But the thing was with their addiction is they were at a point where they had to stop or they were going to die. But their dad brought them to AA, and they were resistant. But they could have, in AA they say it's not a revolving door. So you could go to AA, get advice, guidance, get help, but go out that door and buy a bottle of whiskey, and it could be your last bottle of whiskey. So that's what they mean when they say it's not a revolving door. But, she did change her life around. Her dad took her to the right place, but ultimately she done the work. because she could have just went the other way and died of alcoholism, but she didn't. And she is a miracle, the fact that she's had a serious alcohol addiction and she's recovered from it. There's another person who's a client of mine who had a serious drug addiction, and they are now off the drugs and they are helping other people with drug problems as well. So again, with addiction, how do we break free of that? The first step is therapy and intervention. So therapy, you may need to speak to a therapist. You may need to speak to a therapist. You may need help from a doctor, a professional, because addiction at its root core, there may be an emptiness inside of you, lack of self-worth. There's a lot of pain, but a lot of people with addiction, they've got trauma, what they haven't properly processed or healed from. So the root of the addiction is pain, it's trauma, it's difficulty. That is the root of addiction, and an emptiness inside. So learning to love yourself, which is a long life journey, helps you with addiction, but also getting the help you need, be that rehab for some people, be that therapy, being that, going to a doctor. But ultimately, all these different industries that help people, all these different types of things that help people with addiction, help in life is someone else giving you the light, the torch, and someone giving you the tools to help yourself, because we're always helping ourselves as well. So when it comes to breaking free from addiction, it's hard, but it can be done, because I've met people with have strong addictions and they could have went back on the addiction road, but they broke the wheel, they broke the cycle, and they changed their life around for the better. And they done that through AA. There's also Drug Anonymous. For some people that will be the right fit. For some people, going to a big group meeting is not for them, but going to therapy or speaking to a doctor or counsellor, that may be for some people. But addiction is like something sometimes you need help to get off that substance or that addiction as well. And it's hard to break, but it is a cycle. It's not good, and it makes you a prisoner, because all we've got in life is the present moment. It's important to let go of the past and learn from it. The past is there for us to learn from and heal from. The future is endless doors and opportunities that we will experience. Doors we've not walked through yet, but we will walk through. And also, but all we've got is the present moment, and we want to enjoy the present moment and enjoy the now. But when you've got an addiction, you can't do that, because all what matters to you is the substance. You need to have that, and it's a matter of life and death, and it's like an itch you need to scratch as well. But it's horrible having an addiction, and it is a chain, and it makes you a prisoner, but it is a thing that can be broke. Number 5 is comparing yourself to others. So we're all guilty of it, and before I was on my path, I was guilty of it too. Like, I think a way it can be helpful is where you go, right, this person's a success, this person makes YouTube videos, they're doing good and well, I want to do the same thing as them. That's a good way. But where comparison becomes a trap, and where it becomes a chain, is like when you're going, if they can do it, why can't I do it? If you're going, they're great at this and they're amazing, but I can never do that. And then the comparison becomes jealousy. So, and an example of this is you could be in a holiday in Blackpool having a good time, but then another friend of yours is away in Spain, and because you're comparing yourself to them, you go, I wish I was in Spain. You're losing out in the experience. So comparison is the thief of joy, because I've met many people that were enjoying their life, they were having a good experience, but then hear about someone else's experience, and then that sort of makes them ungrounded or jealous and envious of that person. So it's so important to remember in this life, there's only one of you, and there's only one of you, and you'll always be you. That is so important. You're always going to be yourself. That is what you're always going to be. You're always going to be yourself, and you want to honour what makes you you and unique, because all of us were unique and incomparable to anyone else. So we want to celebrate that and what makes us unique, and not compare ourselves to others, because comparison not only robs you of joy, it also it blinds you, because you forget Well, I'm on my own journey here, my own path, and everyone else's path is different in life. Number 6, the sixth chain we can experience in life is jealousy. When we're envious of someone, we're jealous because I would say jealousy is a very delusional frame of mind, because you go, right, we could go, I'm single right now, but I see other people and beautiful relationships. But you go, and then the question there is, it looks beautiful, but is it really as beautiful as it appears? Because there's lots of people who are out in public, they hold hands, they show affection, and they look like an amazing couple, but behind closed doors, it's a very different story. So again, and sometimes people do have a beautiful relationship, and you may be jealous of them. And again, jealousy, when you are jealous, it's okay to feel jealous. It's important to go, right, I am jealous right now. Acknowledge that. Do some journaling, some shadow work on it. When jealousy becomes a problem is if you act on it. Because some people, because they're not in a good frame of mind, go, I'm jealous of this person, so I'm going to try and ruin what they've got. Because so there's some, jealousy is never a good emotion. But a lot of us, we can become jealous, but we don't do anything bad out of jealousy. But some people do. And that's not that person a jealous of person, it's a problem you've got to work with. And that's where shadow work comes in, because we can all be jealous, but when we're jealous, we need to notice why we're jealous and how can I integrate that, how can I work with the fact I'm jealous and heal from this. But jealousy becomes a chain because it blinds you from what's really important in your life and what's going on in your life. And gratitude breaks you free of jealousy and comparison. So writing your gratitude journal every single day, or having a gratitude practice, will break you free from comparison and jealousy. Number 7 is guilt. So the seventh chain we can get in life is where we feel guilty. Where we feel guilty about some. And a lot of us, we may be carrying guilt because maybe in the past we made mistakes, we done things that were wrong. But making mistakes are human. We've all made mistakes. We've all done things we're ashamed of, we're guilty of. And we wish we could change those mistakes. But a mistake is just a lesson. It only, and you'll keep repeating the same mistake until you learn from it. But how do we heal from guilt? We learn to forgive ourselves. That's how we break free of guilt. We learn to heal from ourselves. We go, I did make mistakes. It was wrong what I done there. For example, one of the things I did do, and I still feel guilty about it, is there was one of my loved ones who had been took advantage of. She thought she had friends, but they were actually just using her for her money. And I tried to make her see what I could see. The rest of the family could see it, but she was had a heart of gold and was such a good person. She couldn't see she was being manipulated and gaslighted and took a line off. She couldn't see that. But I tried to make her see that. Eventually she did, but we would argue a lot. No physical, but we'd argue, we'd have heated words because I was trying to make her see what I could see. But looking back, what that's taught me is don't try and wake anyone up until they're ready. Because you may have a daughter, you may have a son. And I was in a similar situation where my mum could see what something was going on in my life, but I was being used, took a line of. But even though my mum sort of tried to tell me this was happening, I wasn't listening, I was blind. But in the end, I saw things the way my mum did. So what I've learned from that is, I feel guilty because I shouldn't have tried to wake my auntie up before she was ready. I should have let her see it in her own time. But I've forgiven myself for that because we all make mistakes. And that's what breaks us free from guilt. Number 8 on this list is shame. So shame is another thing where, feeling shamed about things, feeling guilty about something. You could be ashamed because you had an addiction, or shamed because you had an eating disorder, or there's lots of things that can make you ashamed. But again, what breaks you free from that is learning to forgive yourself. Because we're only human, we make mistakes. No one's perfect. It's learning to love and accept yourself. That's what breaks you free from sort of guilt and shame. Forgiving yourself and learning to love and accept yourself. That breaks you free from guilt and shame. Number 9 on this list, which is the last sort of chain, is expectations. So expectations also cause suffering, because if your family love you, they'll love you for who you are and the person you are. But some people will go, I want my son to meet a nice woman, and I want my son to have grandchildren, or I want my daughter to meet a nice man and have grandchildren. But your daughter may not want that, your son may not want that. And that's a dream that relies on someone else's work. And as I've always said, dreams that rely on someone else's work always end up in suffering. Dreams that rely on your work and your work alone always end up in success. But expectations also become a chain, because you could go, I want to please my mother and father, or I want to please my family, so I should live up to their expectations and do what they expect of me, or I want to live up to society's expectations. And I say to all that, no, away with that, throw that in the fire pit. Expectations cause suffering. So free yourself from expectations, free yourself from other people's expectations, and in life, do what feels right. Always, and again, learn to listen to your gut. Your intuition is going to, break you free from so many things. So there's lots of things that break these chains, but the 3 most important things, I'd say there's 4 things that break you free, and that's learning to do what feels right, learning to forgive yourself, and learn to love and accept yourself. That sort of breaks you free from all this, and creating new habits, new structure in your life that's beneficial. So there's lots of chains in life, but in this video I've managed to cover 9 chains, and there are certain things we can do that can break us free from these chains, and doing what feels right is one of the biggest things. And though I'm not Christian anymore, and I've got nothing against Jesus, it's just, I respect the being, the spirit, what is Jesus, but I don't really work with Jesus or follow the Christian path, but I have respect for the being as Jesus. But one of the stories I love about Jesus is, we do hear what he preached, kindness, compassion, that. But I like what we see the revel side of Jesus, because in one of the stories, Jesus went to the temple with his followers, and as he went to the temple, he saw that there was cows for sale, goats, there were animals for sale, there was money lenders, and there was lots of things for sale. And when you went to the temple, it was like a marketplace, and this really angered Jesus. So he released all the animals, he threw the money up in the air. But in that moment, he was not caring if he lost followers, if he was misunderstood, and he was not caring what happened to him. He done what felt was right, and then once he caused a commotion, all the sort of guards came out and said, "And whose authority do you this?" And he sort of said, "In God's authority, but also in his own authority." And he said, "Stop treating my father's house like a marketplace." Now, when Jesus says he's the Son of God, I take that metaphorically, not literally. Some do, and that's okay, because each to their own. Agree to disagree. But just as I say I'm a child of God's heritage, I don't mean that literally, I mean it spiritually and symbolically. But again, in the Christian tradition, and even in the Jewish tradition, there's that belief that we're all children of God, so that God is all our Father. In the sort of Abrahamic traditions, so in the Jewish, Muslim and Christian teachings, the Abrahamic faiths, there's that belief structure that God is our Father. And that really angered Jesus, but he was a very misunderstood individual. Some people understood what he was talking about, but he was a very misunderstood individual. He was a rebel, but he done what he felt was right in his heart. And even the Buddha, there's a story about the Buddha who, was also, there's a rebel side of the Buddha as well. But that, I really encourage that, being rebel, don't live for approval, don't live for Don't live up to other people's expectations. Break free of the chains and do what feels right in your heart and soul, and do what's good for your mental, emotional and well-being. So, as always, I hope this video helps. I hope you find it relatable. And if you do find it relatable, if there's any change you think I've missed out, if there's any questions you've got, any comments, please comment down below. It really helps the channel out a lot and helps it to grow. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and also for those of you who are practicing witches like me, stay witchy. And I want to finish this video by saying the Ten of Wands, which is a tarot card, that is what these chains are like. We all get chains in life and they become burdens, they become heavy. And that's what these chains are like in life as well. So until next time, blessed be.